Yeah, luckily we could reach in 6:30. Now, anyway, there's no traveling. So much of
Exactly. That is the best part of it. That there is no traveling. Yeah.
Okay, we are going live on Facebook.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Hello, Rupa Miss. Oh, she is not given permission. Anyway, your time will come.
No, she's giving me permission. Hi.
Hi, hi.
Hi. Hello, doctor.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good, good.
Sapna, we can start.
Sukata, can you please unmute Dr. Yatri? Yeah, Dr. Yatri, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Aarti.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. So all set?
All set. What about you?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Hi, Anjali ma'am.
Hello.
All ready?
Yeah, all
Nice to meet all of you.
Same here. We had
Thank
met
you.
few years back. I will remind you post session maybe.
Sure.
Sapna? Sapna ma'am, can you start?
Yeah, or should I start?
Yeah, Sapna.
Sapna, please start. A very warm welcome to all our dignitaries, panelists, our patrons, and all our loved ones. We have gathered here today to celebrate two occasions. And I'm very delighted to share with you that just before this conclave, we had the virtual launch of our Positive Parenting and Child application, which is now freely available for download on the Play Store. This application will facilitate anyone and everyone across the globe to seek our free mental service. And, mental health is top priority, right? So the application, which is an extension of the helpline, was launched today with all the leaders from Capgemini and Parisar Asha. We were honored to have Ms. Supriya Sule, who is the Honorable MP Lok Sabha, and she graced the occasion and unveiled this initiative, the one you can see on the screen right now. The other reason we have initiated this conclave on the occasion of the World Mental Health Day, which is observed on the 10th of October across the world. Now, many of you who don't know about this initiative of ours must be wondering how Parisar Asha is associated with this cause, because we primarily work in the field of education. Just to give you a short glimpse of our journey, working in the education space for over 4 decades, Parisar Asha realized that there is a dire need of providing counseling and support to the underprivileged parents who neither have access or they can afford these services. This led to the inception of Positive Parenting and Child Helpline, a toll-free number. You can see on the screen, it is 1-800-53-22244. There's one more number, which is 959-4466-461. 4 years back, with the support of Capgemini India, this toll-free number was the beginning of providing parental and mental health support by a team of psychologists and psychiatrists for free. During these 4 years of intervention, Parisar Asha have been able to help 4 lakh individuals and their family members. The pandemic has shown the grim reflection of the mental health scenario globally, where mental health has itself taken up the form of an invisible pandemic. Understanding this need, we are launching this app to provide free mental health support to everyone who needs it, irrespective of their economic and social background, because a happy family builds a happy nation. On this note, without further ado, I would like to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Anjali Chhabria, who is a renowned psychiatrist and psychotherapist of Mind Temple. Welcome, Dr. Anjali. Over to you to please address our audience.
Thank you so much for having me here today, and heartiest congratulations to all the people who are involved in starting this app on positive parenting. I feel so excited and so happy because for the last 35 years, we have been going school to school, telling parents, teachers, and principals the importance of mental health. And today we have apps, today we have people reaching out to everybody, so it is not that the poor person goes without help. So thank you so much. My topic for today is handling emotions. Now, if I have to ask all of you watching this program today to just name 10 emotions, okay, and your time starts now. Okay, I'll let you complete this. Even though if I tell you to name 10 colors, you'll probably be able to do it fast. But we have not learned to label emotions because we have not really been shown the importance of emotions, whether it is our own emotions, whether it is someone else's emotions. But if I have to ask you, for the last 1.5 years, what really kept you going? Was it all the wealth you had? Was it all the books that you accumulated? Or was it handling your own emotions? The day you could handle your emotions well was a good day. And the day you could not handle your emotions, you felt overwhelmed, you felt tired, you felt exhausted, and nothing was possible. So why should we talk about handling emotions? Because when we can understand our own emotions is when we can handle them. And who is this important for? It is important for each one of us. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, if we handle our own emotions well, we will be able to communicate and convey to the children as to how they should handle their own emotions. And if kids can handle their emotions, then only will they be able to learn. Because if you're feeling rage, if you're feeling anger, if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling overwhelmed, what happens to us? Nothing is retained. But the day you're feeling relaxed, the day you're feeling happy, the day you're feeling in control of whatever little anxiety that you may be feeling, you will be able to understand, to learn, and to absorb and to imbibe knowledge. I know the last 1.5 years has been tough, especially on teachers. Teachers, because not only they've had to understand and learn a new system of learning, online teaching. When kids would complain to me about how angry and upset they felt because they had to sit in front of the screen, I would remind them that, think about your teacher, how difficult it is for her to teach screens, especially screens who have decided to keep their videos off. And then they would start smiling. I said, if they can do it, you can do it too. So teachers have had it really rough. So a big hug for all you teachers over there, because not only, and I believe right now you're going to be doing hybrid teaching, so if you're going to be teaching a classroom and then going home, running and teaching screens. Yes, handling your own emotion becomes really important. And for those of you who live with family members, some with their own children, some with their spouses, some with their parents who have their expectations, just going through every day of your life becomes such a multitasking event that it's really important to understand what we are feeling and to also understand that, yes, it's okay to be angry sometimes, it's okay to be tired, but we'll only be able to do that when we understand and start labeling our own emotions. Because the day you're doing well, yes, you'll be able to accomplish all the tasks. And the day which is not going well, you're going to get upset, you're going to get overwhelmed, and all this is also going to come out on kids, and unfortunately, children only learn what they see. They do not learn what they are told. All you parents out there who have been looking after children, restless kids, angry kids, upset kids, kids who've got addicted to their computers, who've got into gaming addiction, okay? Hats off to all of you. You've managed your jobs, you've managed to make two ends meet during the pandemic. And yes, you've also managed to look after the kids. And probably that has been easier on the days that you've been able to handle your emotions well. And yes, one of the very common emotion that I would just like to talk about is this emotion called anxiety. We all feel anxious, children, adults, all of us, senior citizens. And what happens to us when we feel anxious? You feel out of control. And if this kids have been anxious about first not going to school, because as we talk about children, what do we say? Inke khelne koodne ke din hai. And the last 1.5 years, there's been not enough of khelna and no koodna. So they've been jumping around in their seats at home. And kids have been anxious because they're not meeting their friends. I've met lots of kids who say, I want to go out and play cricket, but how do I do it? And yes, when they are anxious, they are restless. When they are restless, not only do they become inquisitive, they become destructive. They tend to do things that we do not want them to do. And that makes parents anxious as well. And when parents are anxious, kids sense that as well and pick it up from them. I've met parents who have asked me that, should I tell my child that I may lose my job? How do I say it? Yes. How do we express our emotions? How do we handle our emotions is extremely important. We must feel them. We must recognize our emotions. We must label it. And that is important because it's only when we label emotions that we can handle them better. So, a little note to all the people who are watching this program today, please start labeling your emotions. Make a little, we all have this gadget. Make a little note on it. When you wake up in the morning, are you feeling calm? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling angry? What are you feeling angry about? Is your day not going the way you expected it to? Okay, why did you expect your day to go in a particular way? The day is going to go the way it has to. So it's important that we handle that emotion that we feel. Yes, by handling it does not mean that we curb it. I think we need to understand that by handling it, that means we are able to express it in an assertive manner. So if I'm upset about something, sorry about this. If I'm upset about something, I should be able to say that I am upset because this is not going the way I expected it to. If I'm angry about something, does not mean that I go and scream and shout. No, I should be able to express it to myself that yes, I am feeling anger. But do I have to express anger? And that is really important. Once we make it a practice of understanding our own emotions, that the next step is going to be about how we are able to handle it, how we are able to express it. A special note to all my men friends who are watching this program. Men are emotional too. And 45% of men in a study done recently said that in the last 1.5 years, they found it difficult to manage or to handle their emotions. So this is the time that we need to start practicing and to start talking about it. And yes, why not even take help? Because there is no health without emotional health. So if you really want to be healthy, I think it's very important. Earlier we used to talk about IQ. Today we talk about EQ. How you manage your emotions, how you handle your emotions is going to be the way towards a successful future. And for all those who are dealing with kids, one change that you will find is the day you start managing and handling your emotions better, that is the time you're going to be able to handle their emotions. Of course, studies are going to happen, but we've seen that yes, we can study without schools. We can study without going to school. The last 1.5 years has taught us. But we cannot imbibe anything when you're having a bad emotional day. So once we are beginning schools, let's remember, let's invest in helping our kids to become emotionally fit, to handle their emotions better. And then exams are going to happen, studies are going to happen, learning is going to happen, everything is going to happen. With this, I congratulate Aarti Savur for doing a wonderful job and wish you all the best. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Yes, so thank you, Dr. Anjali. And to sum up what you just mentioned, I would like to say to everyone who is with us, label your emotions, because many a times the way we started the session today, ma'am, you told us to write down a few of our emotions and just 2-3 that, I could actually write down. I could actually write down more colors. So definitely labeling our emotions is what I take away from here. And once I understand my emotions, I'll be able to handle them better. Isn't that what you were trying to say?
Absolutely.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. And you'll be able to read other people's emotions also better when you are in control of your own emotions.
Yes, ma'am. And one more important thing that Shachi just mentioned was that applies to both the male community and the females, because women are anyways expressive, but men do not do that. So all the viewers who are with us, that is the key takeaway from Anjali ma'am's talk today. So thank you very much, Anjali ma'am. And we do not have the time to take a question right now because we will have to move ahead in the section. Yes. But this is for all the viewers. As we are bringing in the next speaker, you can have your questions in the chat box so we can address just one. Okay, so to move ahead, thank you, Anjali ma'am. And to move ahead with the next segment, we have our next panelist today, who is Dr. Sameer Dalwai. And Dr. Sameer Dalwai is a member of the State Pediatric Task Force. He's a developmental pediatrician, and he's the founder director with New Horizons Group. And Dr. Dalwai has always been a part of the Parisarasha family, always guiding us and supporting us and being a part of many of our initiatives. So thank you, Doctor, for that. And welcome to you and over to you for your topic today, which is school reopening and handling the emotions. Over to you, Doctor.
So good evening, and thank you so much for the kind introduction. Good evening to Ms. Aarti Savur and all my other friends, my co-panelists, and all the other speakers as well. I think it's a very important conclave that we are part of today, because we are back to a situation, or rather at a situation which has been unprecedented in the history of any one of us. Because the first part of the story was when children were asked to stay at home, where it was okay because they thought it is more like a unexpected vacation, and it was easier to adapt. But now, after a year and a half of having stayed at home with their parents all the time, a situation which was unprecedented when we reopened schools and we are asking them to go back to the schools is actually a much bigger challenge than when we ask them to stay back here at home. The challenge is enormous because children have never got the kind of emotional attachment that they got at home in the last 1.5 years. Because look at the situation. The parents are home, both the parents, which was never a condition or a situation earlier. And they have most of the time the undivided attention of the parents, even if the parents were on the laptop or were on their work, but they were around. एक physical जो connect होता है, children had disadvantage of parents being around. The second advantage was, well, it was an extended vacation. Nobody knew exactly what is to be done. So schedules and any kind of disciplining, any kind of routine have gone for a toss. Children were sleeping very late because perhaps the parents would get free very late. There would be late dinners, probably late cleaning up, maybe watching films or whatever. And there was no fixed time for waking up because children would wake up whenever they wanted, or maybe 5 minutes before the class. And I have seen children who woke up, opened their mobile phones, the class or the school on their mobile phones, on the bed, switched on the cameras for a minute, said hello, or the audio actually, camera was never switched on, and went back to sleep beneath their blanket, holding the phone on. The teacher was thinking they're attending class. There have been a study which showed that children were being fed while the classes were going on, and almost 25 to 30% of teachers said we have to keep saying, "Arey, so and so, abhi dabba mat khao, baad mein khao," and all those things. So from all of this to suddenly go back to the school is a big challenge. Also, because look at the academic part. Somebody who was in class 1, who should have been in class 1 last year, in say June 2020, he has not gone to class 1. He had to attend some online coaching or teaching or whatever you want to call it. And now this is mid of 21. He's in class 2, so 2.5. Now, when he goes back to school, what is teacher going to start with? Lessons for class 1, lessons for class 2, or lessons for second half of class 2? Nobody has a clue because every child in the classroom would have learned differently depending on what was available at home on online schooling, how much time, effort parents could give. And this is all very easy to talk about in, say, affluent areas of Mumbai or Pune or some Delhi. But it's a very, very diverse situation. Say, if you talk about somewhere in the interior areas, maybe Washim or Nandurbar or Dhule, we have no idea what has happened. So when schools reopen today, the most important thing to understand is children are coming back to a very different situation. In addition, for the last year and a half, we don't know what all they have gone through, what all they have faced at home. They may have seen severe illness. They have definitely seen failure of every medical facility in the world. They have seen death. They have seen illness. They have seen loss. They have seen separation. They have seen quarantine. They have seen isolation. They have seen their parents and their grandparents break down. All this has happened in the last year and a half. They've seen bodies floating down the river on TV. What is the kind of anxiety, depression, psychosocial stress, psychosomatic stress, the post-traumatic stress that they are all facing when they come back to school? And hence, the most important thing when we take them back to school is to make them feel welcome to a new situation. And though all of us are very eager to put children back to school, let's not think it's going to be a cakewalk for everybody. Children are used to a situation at home. I am anticipating some kind of separation anxiety, which we typically anticipate in the nursery or the kindergarten classes to happen even in maybe the older classes, because suddenly children are going to feel a little disoriented being separated from the comforts of their house because they've been indoors for a year and a half. And hence, for the first few days that we start school, let us focus on making the school a place of emotional rehabilitation, a place of happiness and a joy, and a place where children can actually relax coming from the environment that they have in the last year and a half. And that is very important for us as well as for the children, because this may otherwise carry on as undiagnosed, untreated, unaddressed trauma, which may end up as post-traumatic stress disorder. So the mission is simple. When children come back to school, let the school be a place of happiness. And let us not rush into completing syllabus, because as I mentioned, nobody has a clue where to start with the syllabus. What is very important is to make it a safe and a happy place for children. So can we start with perhaps children just meeting and greeting each other? Can we just start with children singing to each other? Can we start with some singing in the class? Can we start with some fun and games in the classroom? Of course, while maintaining COVID appropriate behavior, children should be wearing masks at all time, as far as possible, maintaining safe distance, and of course, sanitization, which is a must. In the limitations of all this, it's still very possible to have a very open, happy atmosphere for children. Children's therapy is largely letting them speak. 80% of the stress is reduced once children are able to speak and address or say whatever is there in their minds. We don't need to offer a solution for whatever children say. Just hearing them speak, allowing them to speak without being stopped in the way, without being tutored in any way, without any gyan being given is actually very, very therapeutic for children. And most of the problems will get better. So the idea is to have the first 1 or 2 weeks more of a congenial atmosphere for children. The child may come to school without a smile for the first day or two. It's important to continue with this till all the children are smiling. But even after a week or two, if children are feeling, if you don't see that child smiling, you need to mark out this child and you need to look at this child additionally, individually, separately. You need to, as a teacher, perhaps speak to other senior teachers, perhaps the management, even address the child's family and parents and see what's actually happening. Why isn't he adapting in the last 1 or 2 weeks, in spite of us making it a very congenial atmosphere? So there could be some children who really, really faced a great loss, who are in severe anxiety or in depression, and we then need to perhaps refer them to professional counseling services. There could be children who have suffered great academic depredation, and we need to then make up maybe a bridge course or some special teaching or some special attention to see to it that they are able to catch up without feeling left out or feeling too unduly or overtly stressed about it. And finally, let's not forget that the school is a place of emotional happiness, not just for the child, but also for the teachers. Teachers have probably done much more in this pandemic than even doctors and nurses, or at least as much as them, because they, at least doctors and nurses, went on doing what they've been trained to do. Teachers were never trained to conduct online classes. They had no clue how to handle a class of 60 online. On top of that, they had to stay at home managing their own child's school, managing their spouse's food, and managing the house at home without any domestic help. I think the greatest adaptability has been shown by our teachers, and we should demand that the government recognize their services as much, if not more, than the medical services or the other essential services. And teachers truly have been the COVID warriors in the last year and a half. They have gone from us overnight, from teaching in the way they were always taught, to online schooling. They have to adapt the syllabus, they have to adapt the academic teaching, they have to adapt the way they manage the classroom. And now suddenly they have to swing back into action. Again, going back, teachers today have to play the role not just of a teacher, but also a mother, a father, a counselor, and a healer. And to do that, the school management and the parents and society, but especially the parents, need to understand the great role that teachers are playing or going to play in the next 6 months. And hence, dear parents, I'm repeating, dear parents and school management and the boards, instead of catching them on whether they're completing the syllabus or no, please encourage them to be friends with the child, to encourage this kind of atmosphere in the school, because it is therapeutic not only for the child, but also for the teachers. This kind of atmosphere is going to lighten up the mood and enlighten everybody, both. And don't stress them with the entire issue of completing syllabus, because it's going to be terribly unfair, not just to the children, but also to the teachers. And what's very important at this stage is to look at this as one happy family. And parents, I request you again to understand, this is not the time to follow syllabus. We have appealed to the government. We've spoken to the Honorable Minister of Education of Maharashtra. At least I can talk from that point of view, Honorable Mrs. Varshatai Gaikwad. And she has promised to look into relaxing the norms for completing syllabus. It's very important. The syllabus in the curriculum today is survival, and survival with happiness. That's where the happiness quotient or this emotional quotient comes in very, very important. And that's why happiness for all is to be the motto for schools going ahead. Let us make schools a happy place for teachers, for children, and also for the parents, because many of us do look forward to our children's schools as a very important mooring or parking place for our own emotions. And hence, it's very important to have more frequent parent-teacher meets, more open discussion. Parents may see that suddenly their child is very tired these days. That's because for 1.5 years, there's been no physical exercise. अभी 2-3 फ्लोर ऊपर नीचे चढ़ना पड़ रहा है, 2-3 माले ऊपर मजले उतरायचे चढायचे आहे, not used to walking all the way to schools. All this needs to be taken into account. The children are going to be a little cranky, a little difficult to adapt in the first few weeks that school start. We need to be happy to give our time and attention and focus to this. So I think this is a time of understanding, of cooperating, of sharing happy moments, of effective moments, of best practices with each other. And for a fora like Parisarasha and this conclave are an excellent source of giving guidance, inspiration, strength, and Shakti to all of us to continue to work in this field. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with all of you. And if there are any questions, I don't know if that's permitted, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, we are always there to help you in any way possible that you think. So thank you very much. I'm not able to hear you.
Yes, doctor, we have time for one question. So if anything comes up in the chat box, I will let you know.
Sure.
And thank you for those wonderful suggestions, doctor. So the takeaway from what you have just spoken is that the onus is not only upon the teachers, it's the parents, the children, and everybody who is responsible to make the school a happy place. Because as you say, there will be children coming from all walks of life, seen all the things, gone through so much of trauma. So the first thing is to make the school a happy place. Am I right, sir?
Absolutely, that's what I said. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I don't think we have any questions, sir. So thank you once again for the wonderful insight. And we will be moving on.
So thank you, Sapna, 1 minute. So thank you, Dr. Dalwai, because I know that you are there at the same time at 3 different places. So thank you for attending this conclave also in spite of your busy schedule. So thank you so much.
Thank you to all my friends at Parisarasha, and thanks to all of you for having attended this session. Sorry, I've been a little outdoors, so maybe the sound was not appropriate, but thank you so much for the opportunity. God bless.
The sound was perfect and your advice was even.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
To the next segment with the next panelist for the day today, who is Dr. Yatri Thakkar. She's a homeopathic physician, mental health expert, and founder Baby and Me programs. And the topic for Dr. Yatri today is mental health and youth. So welcome Dr. Yatri, and Dr. Yatri has also been on Parisarasha's Ask the Expert series. We have heard her before, and today looking forward to hearing her once again. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Sapna, for this wonderful introduction, and thanking you and Aarti for having me over, as usual. And especially a big thank you for giving me this topic, which is so close to my heart, connecting with the youth and their mental health issues, or I should say mental health well-being. I have a presentation which I'd shared in case if you have, and if you want to go through it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I want this session to be a little more interactive. So in case if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. So as we know, youth are aged between 15 to 29 years age, and which constitutes 27.5% of India's population. Isn't that huge? And from that, adolescents are the ones who are going to be our future and who are our present. And an estimated of 10 to 20% of adolescents globally experience mental health condition, yet these remain underdiagnosed and undertreated. So let me begin by giving few of case study examples. Can you go to the next slide, please? So let me give you a few examples. So this reminds me of a case, a boy named Yash, 17-year-old, and he came with a complaint of anxiety and panic attack. When he was in 9th grade, he studied in Mumbai's one of the best schools. And when he was in 9th grade, he was caught cheating during examination. He took all the blame and shame, and then later he got transferred into other school. But this story stuck to him like a shadow. No matter as much brutally honest he was, yet everyone would doubt him and not trust him. He lost his confidence, social skills, and started getting panic attacks and depression. Other cases, Hetvi. She's 19 years old, and she came with a complaint of having suicidal thoughts. And when I asked her why, she said, well, because I broke up with my boyfriend When I asked more, she said, I broke up with my virtual boyfriend whom she had never met. The third example I would want to give of Kanika, 22-year-old graduate. She lost her father during COVID times, and suddenly she had to shoulder all the household responsibilities, and she didn't know what to do. And she came up with the complaint of eczema and depression. Most of the youth, they come up with some kind of what you call psychosomatic disorder, which are actually the root cause of some kind of mental health issues. And we need to address them. About these all cases, which I just mentioned, we're lucky enough to get aid. But what about the ones who don't have enough monetary facilities or are unaware of their issues, or their parents are just merely naive of their symptoms? Now, thanks to Parisarasha for coming up with this noble cause. So, multiple physical, emotional, and social changes, including exposure to poverty, abuse, or violence, can make adolescents vulnerable to mental health problems. And by promoting psychological well-being, protecting adolescents from adverse experiences and risk factors that may impact their potential to thrive are critical for their well-being. Just like how Dr. Anjali and Dr. Dalvi just mentioned about few of the critical changes that children are going through. And that is exactly what I need to emphasize on. So let's see how we can do and how we can deal with it. Let's go to the next slide. So there are actually multiple factors which determine mental health outcomes. The more risk factors youths are exposed to, greater potential impact on their mental health. So here we need to teach them how to deal with stress, which is going to go on throughout their life. So some of the factors that can contribute to stress to youths include a desire for greater autonomy, quality of their home life and relationship with their peers, exploration of sexual identity, increased access to and use of technology. Now, luckily, in this COVID times, technology has come to aid to kids. They could mingle with their social groups, they could continue their schools. So it did have a positive impact. But I want to emphasize on the risk factors when they get obsessed about their gaining likes on their Insta or FB post and make comparison between their own physical appearance or life circumstances and that of others. And this itself can lead to anxiety, depression, and even thoughts of suicide. During this COVID time, we have had a number of cases, especially about the B actors who committed suicide or them recently caught for substance abuse. So if we try understanding that children at younger age or the youths are the one to be treated for mental health well-being, they will not turn into abusive adults or problematic adults. Some of the most common disorders among youths include anxiety disorder, both social or generalized, ADHD, ADD, depression, mood disorders, schizophrenia, eating disorders, especially seen in girls. So our world is a home to 1.8 billion young people, contributing about 1/4 of the total world's population. Imagine the amount of responsibility as parents and as caregivers we have on our shoulders. So it is vital that parents educate themselves on how to recognize a mental health issue in their children, learn steps to take if they suspect a problem, and also know whom to contact in cases of emergencies. And for this, actually, there are a number of barriers taking care of mental health needs, and most of my colleagues here would vouch for that. So there needs to be some kind of system that needs to be followed. So the barriers which include are lack of services, lack of awareness, myths, misconceptions, stigma, and low priority to mental health. Therefore, early identification, intervention for the problems, and prevention remains vital to the solution. Can we go to the next slide, please? So while I spoke about the barriers, the triggers that could cause such mental health issues, I want to bring into awareness my take on the preventive techniques dealing with mental health issues for youth. And I've divided into A, B, C, D, and PQRS. This technique has really worked. So in case if you want to advise others or imbibe in your lives, go ahead. So A stands for acceptance. As long as you don't accept there is a problem, you cannot do anything about it. Just like that chain smoker who comes to me and says, Doc, I want to quit smoking. Throughout his life, he's seen on his cigarette package, smoking is injurious to health, but yet he smokes till he's not aware that this cigarette is going to kill me. So it's the same for the mental health. A for acceptance, A for awareness. Awareness that me and you and all of us together need to spread about mental health. Awareness that we need to educate parents, teachers, principals, schools about the issues the children go through and what we can do. B is for believing in yourself, believing in your physician. As long as you believe in yourself and physician, you can easily take any kind of hurdles coming in front of you. C for change, C for choice. You always have a choice to change. You have a choice to change your negative thought into positive thought. You have a choice to change your suicidal thoughts into being alive and making this life lively. You have a choice to change anything, but you need to be making that choice. D, I would say, is for doing. What I mean by doing is there are people who would listen to this therapist and that expert, would go on reading on Google, do a lot of research, but don't do anything about it. You need to actually shake yourself and do something about it. Push yourself. It might be a little difficult to begin with, but trust me, as they say, if you do anything new for 21 days, it becomes a habit. So go for it and do it. Let's go to PQRS. Ready? So P stands for psychotherapy. Don't shame away or run away from taking psychotherapy, because it will really help you in developing coping mechanism, problem solving techniques, interpersonal skills will develop. You also learn to manage your emotions and also learn a lot of techniques, just as Dr. Anjali mentioned about. So don't shy away from psychotherapy and take it. And P is also for possibilities. There are a lot of possibilities available, but you just have to look for it. And how do you look that? That comes from Q. Q is by asking questions. Till you don't ask questions, you don't find possibilities. You are just stuck to one thing. So ask questions, open-ended questions like, what can I do about this? What can I do to bring ease? How can I change this? And slowly you will start seeing possibilities opening up in your area. R, regularly exercise. Being stagnant, being in one place, even sitting at home, just move about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, as much time you have. Shake your hands, move your neck, but don't be stagnant. Do regular exercise, R for regular exercise, and R for remedy. When a youth has any kind of mental health issue, once diagnosed, they need to take remedy for that, because there are certain chemical changes which takes place, and that can be treated only and only with some chemical, be it allopathy or homeopathy. I want to stress a little bit on homeopathy here, because that's what I am an expert for, and I've seen its amazing cure. Homeopathy works as a complementary medicine, and it works amazingly well, especially in the motions where there are certain flower remedies with a combination of homeopathy given to patients, which works inside out, both for physical change and mental change. So R for remedies. Finally, S. S, improved sleep patterns, which I'm seeing completely missing in youth. That time your hormones are at peak and you can go for it. You can stay awake, I think, even for 3 nights at a stretch. But later you will know its side effects. So sleep is something that you need to, practice at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep. They have irregular sleep patterns. Waking up being awake most of the nights is a regular thing. And then your body cycle also gets ruined, because by sleeping, the growth hormones improve, everything improves, your organ becomes better. So S for improved sleep patterns, and S for building a support system. Now, what is the support system? It could be in your school with your colleagues. If you have the same issues, search a group, same kind of parents whose kids going through the same issue, and stand by each other. Take self-help plan and understand you're not alone out there. There are lots of children going through it, and yet I would say you can come out of it. So if you ask me, by the end of all this, I would say mental health is definitely preventable. However, in most of the cases, parents get their children when it's too late, or I would say at least till they have not understood what's happening to them, because parents are in denial. So we all together have a job today, is by spreading this awareness on youth mental well-being. Let us together bring this change. As even, let's go to the last slide, please. As even the darkest night will end and the sun will surely rise. I want to end by saying this quote, which I really loved. Being broken is a temporary condition, a way station on a journey to joy and love, a place to gather strength and nourishment for long miles ahead. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Dr. Yatri. Dear viewers, we have time for one question. If anybody wants to ask Dr. Yatri something, quickly type it in the chat box. So yes, coming back to what Dr. Yatri has just shared with us, the wonderful formula of A, B, C, D, and PQRS. I'm not going to repeat all that because I'm sure all of you are very attentive and have made a note of it. But what I would like to say is what she said right in the beginning, that many a times, by the time you come to know that you have a certain problem or you are aware that you are in need of help, you don't know where to look, right? Isn't that so, ma'am? So then there is where, the next part of our event is going to be the journey of the Positive Parenting and Child Helpline, which we started 4 years ago, and which today, just before this conclave, we had an official launch of the digital app. So we will be showing a journey there. Just
Thank you, Dr. Yatri. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So
Pleasure, Aarti.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, and we would like to have the film, please. Thank you, Dr. Yatri.
We have one question for Dr. Yatri. Sugdha, can you just hold on?
Okay, yeah, I can see that. So Dr. Yatri, what are your views on group therapies and support groups? In India, we have very few therapists who do it. So ma'am, would you address that, please?
Yes, it's a very good question. And whoever has mentioned, I think Mr. Sai, as I can read. That's true. In India, there are very few support system, and we, whoever practitioners or, just like Parishar are understanding the importance of mental health, should take it with us as a responsibility. Now, what happens in group therapy, people can share their own views and they can start giving tips and tools to each other. At the end of the session, you will be seeing that the therapist is just like this person who is just watching, and others are the ones who are mingling and sharing, and aiding help to each other, and which is great because people still shy away from taking counseling sessions or treatment for the same. And let's just throw away these stigmas through group therapy. I think we can begin this group therapies even from approaching schools, especially post-COVID, as Dr. Dalvi mentioned, school is going to reopen. There will be a lot of anxiety in children and other problems. So why not just suggest to principals that, you can have these group therapies and take it forward? Maybe that should also help.
So yeah, that was a very wonderful question, Sai, and very beautifully answered by Dr. Yatri.
Thank
so
you.
What you said was so wonderful, doctor, that many a times the therapist just becomes an onlooker because it's the people who are mingling with each other and coming up with solutions. Isn't that wonderful? So, okay, thank you once again, Dr. Yatri. On that note, we would like to, showcase the journey of the Positive Parenting Child Helpline. Can we have the film, please?
Do you recognize that laughter? Have you seen that face? It's the mental health monster that plagues our brains. The mother thinks she never studies and just sits around all day, The father thinks she's badtameez, throwing tantrums unnecessarily, because they don't know that she's behaving this way because of the mental health monster that is ruining her life. She's not alone. There are more kids, youths, and adults all over the world going through the same thing. We found that 1 in every 3 children struggle at home with such issues. If children are our future, then this future seems very dark. But in darkness, you'll always find hope. It's Parisar Asha. In 2015, we started the Positive Parenting Helpline to help save the lives of such kids by guiding their parents. Any parent in need of help could give a missed call and send an SMS on the helpline, and our team of experts would call them back to provide the solutions and guidance they need. In the first year, Parisar Asha saved more than 500 people, and in 2017, with the help of Capgemini, our one superhero became many. We launched the first toll-free Positive Parenting and Child Helpline, where a team of professional psychologists and psychiatrists provide free and confidential counseling services to kids and their parents. We also conducted free on-ground workshops to create awareness on topics like parenting, stress management, and mental health issues, and expanded to in-house counseling at our Center for More Serious Concerns. Our superhero was saving lives all over the world. We were on our way to change the world when a stronger enemy came that turned the whole world upside down: COVID. And together with the mental health monster, it thought of a plan to destroy the planet and everybody on it. But if the enemy gets bigger, our defense needs to get even stronger. In the fight against COVID, we partnered with NGOs of Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Maharashtra, and West Bengal. We also realized in tough times like these, mental health should be free and accessible for all. That's why Parisar Asha presents the Positive Parenting and Child digital app for Android phones, a one-of-its-kind app that makes seeking help for mental health completely free and open to everyone. Over 4 years, we've touched the lives of 4 lakh beneficiaries, and we're just getting started because we believe happy families make for a happy nation. Are you with us? Call 1-800-53-22244.
Yes, so that was the journey of the helpline, which started 4 years ago. And today it has been extended to the digital application. And I'm sure most of you have made the note of the number. You can see it on the screen too. So with that, I would also like to mention, though it says Positive Parenting and Child Helpline, anybody and everybody can make use of this helpline and the digital app. Because in the COVID times, we saw to it that, mental well-being is not only restricted to a mother and a child or the father or the child, because a family is made up of everyone, right? It's the youth, it's the grandparents, it's the uncles, it's the aunts. So we decided to address the mental issues of everyone who required help. And that is how this has come into existence. So make the most use of it, and please share this app with all your loved ones. So moving on to the next segment, the next panelist for the day. And Dr. K.C. Chowda is the former president, Bombay Psychiatrist Society, consultant psychiatrist at the P.D. Hinduja National, Hinduja Healthcare, and Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospitals. But due to some unavoidable circumstances, Dr. Chowda is not here with us at the event, but fortunately, he has sent us a presentation. So can we have that, please? The topic here is Your Mind, a Game Changer.
Hi, I'm Dr. K.C. Chowda, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about how the mind is the actual changer that occurs in whatever we do. today, especially if you're looking at what is happening after the COVID pandemic, things are no longer the way they used to be. We started off by being very positive. We started off by being very optimistic that we'd be able to cope very easily. We hoped that there would be a restricted amount of months in which there would be restrictions. And now we suddenly are being told that there's a second wave, there's a third wave, there may be a fourth wave, there are variations in the virus. The uncertainty gets to us all. We always notice that there are some people who seem to do very well. They seem to cope in spite of the problems, while there are others who don't seem to cope so well. Why does this happen? It is believed that we are all in a state of balance, in a state of stasis. And we use our own reserves, we use our own methods of coping with whatever be the problem. Suddenly there's an external stimulus which is extreme, and then we kind of topple over. The balance is no longer maintained, and we kind of topple over and we get into a situation where we can't cope anymore. We land up getting very anxious or very depressed, or land up having signs and symptoms of OCD, or we land up even having psychotic breakdowns where we are out of touch with reality. Some people become aggressive, some people become turning to addictions. There's a huge gamut of things that we see happening over a period of time. A large amount of this is actually genetically mediated. So now, because of the explosion in research that has occurred in genetics, we can almost prophesy in advance as to what we expect to see with a child who lands up having certain problems. We can look into the future and say it's very likely that he or she will land up having these kinds of signs and symptoms, and we can actually prophesy in advance as to what to expect. The brain is a huge game changer in whatever we want to do. We talk of emotional well-being. Emotional well-being probably would be that you utilize all your faculties to actualize your potential, to be the best at whatever you're doing, to attempt to reach the epitome of your capabilities, and at the same time feel happy and content and satisfied with the way life is. If we are looking at it in terms of the future, we are looking at it in terms of the fact that today the way I work, today the way I study, today the way I deal with people, the way I communicate will enable me to look into the future as somebody who's at a certain position, at a certain level, and doing fairly well or very well or not so well in whatever he aims to do. So what do we do in terms of emotional health? There are a whole bunch of things that we suggest. First of all, it's extremely important for us to be aware of the fact that whether we like it or not, about 25% of the population is going to have some kind of psychiatric illness, is going to have some kinds of signs and symptoms which will come in the way of his emotional, social, occupational functioning, is going to be in a situation where he actually should need help. This old stigmatization, why are you going to a psychiatrist, why are you seeking mental health, needs to go. Just like you land up having a problem with your stomach and you go to a gastroenterologist, or if you have a heart attack, you go to the cardiac specialist. So also, if you can't eat well, you can't sleep well, you get very anxious, you get very sad, there's crying episodes, concentration is a problem, you get very aggressive, you hear voices, you feel that people are looking at you nastily. All of these signs and symptoms can be symptomatic of some kind of psychiatric illness, and hence it is then essential for us to seek appropriate help. What can we do anyway in the growing up stage? What can we do on a day-to-day basis? It's generally believed that it's necessary to have a kind of a good lifestyle, enough sleep, enough to eat, drink in moderation, don't take drugs at all, exercise to some extent. Some people believe yoga, meditation and things like that are also beneficial. A lot of people take recourse to some kind of spiritual support. Anything that works for you is good. But if we are looking at it in terms of emotional health and emotional well-being, it is absolutely essential for us to be aware of the fact that depression where you feel sad and down, it's coming in the way of your functioning, where at times you feel useless and worthless, where you feel there's no point in living. If there's severe anxiety where you get experiences of something bad going to happen, you might land up having a generalized anxiety overall, or you might actually land up having situational attacks where you get so anxious and so tense about what is happening that you'll end up actually running to the doctor or to the hospital and saying you have a heart attack, and he checks you out, does a few blood tests and says it's all emanating from the brain. When the pandemic started, people who were a little more hygienic, who would wash their hands a little more, they were actually at an advantage. But then what happens is over a period of time, you find that they're constantly hand washing, they're spending a lot of time in rituals related to religion. They feel scared, there's a lot of anxiety, and it comes in the way of their normal functioning. They'll end up doing things over and over again in a ritualistic way in order to cope with the anxiety that they experience related to the thoughts which come in the way. And very often they know that the thoughts don't make sense, but it's very difficult for them to control. Something called OCD. We've noticed an increase in OCD in our pandemic areas. We've noticed an increase in aggression. We must remember that a lot of us stay in very small areas, small flats. So you might have 2 adults working online from home. You might have a couple of kids who are doing online studying. Everybody needs some amount of silence, which may not be available. You might have an older person in the family who's also there, who wants his own privacy, and suddenly he doesn't have it. There may be special need children, there may be special need adults, and the caretakers are not available. So the onus and the so-called burden of looking after everybody falls on the adults in the family, and very often they cope with becoming very aggressive and sometimes even physically so. So we've seen an increase in this. There may also be evidence of smoking and drinking much more than what used to be, just because the person feels so bereft, so upset, so scared that he feels that this is the only way that he can get some kind of help and support in enabling him to function better. What role does the brain play in all of this? If we can somehow push our brains and ourselves to become more resilient, then the normal reactions that we see with other people will no longer be present. If we can push ourselves to live, to survive, and to survive as positively as we possibly can. And by survive, I mean nobody expects that in the middle of a pandemic where we are seeing horrible visuals on television, where all of us now have heard about somebody we know, somebody in the family, somebody in the extended family, some friend who's been affected by COVID and might even have succumbed to it. Nobody is expecting that you kick your legs up and dance with joy. But if you can somehow survive it and take into fact the scientific evidence that proves that even though vaccinations may not be a panacea, they still land up seeming to reduce the signs and symptoms associated with it. So eventually we expect that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, there are going to be situations where you're going to feel that it's still very difficult. We have generations of school kids who will be affected by staying at home for 2 years or even longer. We have people who would have been in the 10th and the 12th and appeared for entrance exams, and all of that has been affected. There's not too much of clarity as to how they get into professional colleges. All of that is going to have some kind of repercussion. But we have to be safe rather than sorry. And the only thing that would then sustain us is to tell ourselves that we have not been singled out. That the entire city, the entire country, in fact the entire world is in a similar situation such as we are. And that we've got to just survive it, because there will be light at the end of the tunnel, and there certainly will be. Things are opening up, it's getting a little easier. Hopefully the economy will also benefit. So it comes to a situation where we would expect and hope that a new normal life will then begin, where hopefully there will be some more cleanliness than what there used to be. Hopefully there will be less spitting, and the usual nonsense that we see happening on the roads will reduce. And hopefully the connectedness and the comfort levels and the the help that we've given each other remains, so that life becomes a little more positive in the future. It is the brain that is going to make the difference. So if we can somehow push ourselves to start believing and working towards staying connected, looking after each other, supporting each other, being sensible related to COVID precautions, doing everything we can to help our city, our neighbors, the motherland, that is what will make a difference eventually in the years to come. Thank you.
So yes, dear viewers, that was Dr. K.C. Chawda for us, and the topic that he was talking about was the mind game changer. So definitely, as he said, the pandemic, the entire world faced that, but how each person reacted to it was different. So you're going back to the first session that we had where Dr. Anjali spoke about handling emotions. So let me connect it to this one wherein Doctor says that train your brain, to look at the positive side, identify whether you need help, and whenever you do need help, first of all, self-help, because there is a lot that you yourself can do about it. But if not, there is help that you can take, right? So on that note, we will move ahead to the next section. The next section is all about what Dr. Dalwai was saying. He spoke about teachers being the COVID warriors. Definitely, we have heard about people applauding the doctors, the nurses, the caregivers, everyone. But they were trained to do that. But the teachers have adapted so wonderfully to this new normal and, taken the onus upon them to continue this wonderful system of educating the children, and wonderfully adapted to that in spite of a lot of challenges at their end too. So the next panelist and our speaker for today is Ms. Rupa Duwari, who is the Vice Principal of Father Agnel Multipurpose School and Junior College, Vashi, Navi Mumbai. And Dr. Duwari has also been a part of our expert series. We have heard her before and looking forward to hearing her once more with the topic, Teachers as Counselors. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sapna. Thanks for giving me a degree that I haven't earned yet. I am Rupa Duwari. I am not Dr. Rupa Duwari, so thank you for that.
Sorry, there are so many.
It's all right.
So.
It's all right. So a doctor's wife becomes half a doctor all the time. She's advising people all the time. So thank you for that. I was wondering because Snigdha, our principal, has already spoken about emotional well-being and accepting emotions. How is teacher going to be a counselor? All right. My take on this, it's going to be a little different. I'm going to give another word for teacher as a counselor, but at the end of the session, after I finish completing my talk, I'll tell you what is the new word that I have given for teacher as counselor. Teachers have, in their various levels, have been trained to be teachers, all right? But without realizing, teachers are trained in other fields too. Number one, adaptability. Nobody can adapt to changes as much as a teacher does or a teacher will do. We have seen it now. Everybody has mentioned here how teachers have accepted the technology, how they have been trained within a week to edit, to make films, to conduct lessons, online lessons, and so on. But one important thing that they were never trained, but they are genuinely counselors, guides at various levels. Their level of helping students is different. At a kindergarten level, the teacher becomes a substitute mother or a substitute father. At a primary level, a kindergarten teacher becomes a guide. She guides the children. She helps them learn, helps them deal with things, challenges. At a secondary level, the teacher becomes, I wouldn't call a friend, but somebody who helps children understand their difficulties, their challenges, and gives them positive inputs so that they learn to deal with their difficulties. She doesn't counsel them. She helps them understand themselves. She gives them positive encouragement. All this is part of counseling. Now, why should we say a teacher is a counselor? Because she is somebody or he is somebody who is with the children for a longer duration. Counselors act on a one-on-one basis invariably with children, but teacher deals with a group of students, 60, 50, 70, 25, number. Yet, in all that, she's able to read the pulse of every student. She's able to understand their emotions. She notices changes that is happening in students, and she works on that. She finds out from them what is troubling the student. How is the child going to cope with this? Is there any change in the family? Is there any change in the family setup? Has this child undergone a mental stress? So if I take something from every speaker today, I would say, from Dr. Anjali, I would say, she helps children label their emotions. She helps children understand their emotions. From what Dr. Samir Dalwai I can say is that she is a warrior. She helps children fight challenges. She helps them be brave. She gives them positive inputs. She guides them. If I take it from Dr. Yatri Thakur, she accepts them as they are, with their challenges, with their disabilities. She includes them. B, she believes in them and teaches them to believe in themselves. C, she helps them face challenges. And D, she demonstrates with her emotions how you should accept everybody as they are, how they should accept their challenges, how they should be brave, how they can find solutions to their own problems. So, has the role of the teacher changed? Just a little now, but this was what this is what is in the Indian standards, a guru is all about. A teacher would have been an adhyapak if she just remained a teacher. A teacher would have become only a knowledge giver if she was only an upadhyay. A teacher would have been an acharya if she taught only skills. A teacher would have been only a pandit if she gave them insight into their education or their academics. But over all this, she became their guru. Gurus guide. Gurus don't tell you do this, do that. They tell you what you can do, read your emotions, understand it. So when children are concerned, teachers have always been counselors. Teachers understand them very well. So teachers now are not counselors because they're not trained to be counselors, isn't it? They are guides. This is the new word that I give for the teachers. They are guides. They are their gurus. And we should think about this, because where a family is concerned, it is all love for the child. But a teacher helps the children understand that discipline is also part of love. So a teacher as a counselor works better. The second angle to this is she not only counsels or guides the students, she also becomes a partner with the parents in enabling the children to be better individuals and better human beings. So without parental partnership, teachers won't be able to achieve much. So she's not only a guide to the students, but she's also a guide to the parents. Now in this pandemic, what is one thing that has come out where most of them have spoken about it is the fact that teachers, this is one group, one section of the society that has worked tirelessly in this COVID period. They didn't have rest. They didn't have, even when they had holidays, they were preparing for the lessons that have to be taken. They were preparing as to how children can be included into this system of learning. They were cajoling children. So there is one area which needs attention is the teacher's emotional well-being. So I think where the schools are concerned, the management now will look at the emotional well-being of the teachers, and teachers can be counselors to each other. It's just not to their students. It's not just to the parents. It's to even the each other, so that we have a better way of coping once the pandemic comes down a little and children start coming to school. So without much of delay, I would say that the teacher would be a very good counselor without even getting trained in this particular area. Only she needs to be a little more alert, a little more aware, and a little more appreciative of the fact that she is in the position where she can help everybody around her. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupa ma'am. So wonderfully, you have summed up, the entire essence of what each speaker said and what you just spoke about, the teachers weren't trained to do all these things. I mean, I think it was inbuilt, isn't it, ma'am? We have been doing this all the time. And maybe it was a slip of my tongue to address you as doctor, but you are no less, ma'am. You are healing everyone, isn't it? So definitely.
That's true. That's true.
Definitely. So I think there's a lot of viewers here belonging to the education fraternity. There are teachers, there are parents. So I think we all deserve to clap once for ourselves for, so beautifully adapting to the new normal. And, the onus is upon us now that the schools will be reopening and the teachers are going to play a major role. And definitely what Rupa ma'am has just spoken about, I'm sure each one here has, the same feelings to share. So with that, we are moving on to the final segment of today's event, wherein we are going to be, listening to Ms. Aarti Savar, who is the CEO of Parisarasha, a passionate educationist, as all of you know, with a rich experience of 26 years in the field of education. And during this pandemic too, Aarti has been extensively working and rising the happiness quotient in people's life. So the topic today for Ms. Aarti is happy hours. Over to you, Aarti.
Thank you, Sapna. And first of all, thank you, Rupa Miss. It was really wonderful. So thank you so much. Okay, so now this is the last session of this today's evening, and I'm sure you all are getting, accustomed to understand our emotions, our emotional well-being, and so many good speakers over here on the same platform. And it's a really great day that we had a launch of our Capgemini supported project, Positive Parenting and Child digital app. So yeah, it's a happy moment for us. So how about your happiness? And this is the name of the session is Happy Hours. So in fact, when many people, they asked me, what do you mean by happy hours? It's anyways Friday night, almost night. So, so don't worry. It's, your happiness or your happy hours is on the house. I know in virtual conference, you must be thinking, how are you going to, actually do this happy hours? in virtual conference. But yeah, we are talking about not on the house, we are talking about happiness in the house. So let's, it's going to be like 10-minute session, but let's all try to be happy in this 10 minutes. So I want everyone to switch on your videos. Of course, don't switch on your audios, but your videos, whoever, is fairly dressed up, they can switch on their videos. Yeah, so I would like all of you to take part in, happily in whatever conversation I'm going to have with you. So there is a chat box available for everyone. So let's try, understanding your own personal happiness. Okay, what do you think? At the grade of, 1:10, how much you will rate the level of the quotient of your happiness? 1 is you're very sad, and 10 is you're very happy. So right now, type in the chat box, what do you feel at this moment? How happy you are? Come on, quickly. Okay, 7, 8, 7, 6. Well, good. So where you are losing your marks? Okay, somebody is 9. Good, good, good. 7. Okay, well, so I think who has got distinction, maybe they have some different recipe, and people who are feeling okay, 6, 8 or whatever. But I think I can see all are, getting first class in happiness, test of happiness. And the lot who has joined over here seems to be very, very happy lot. So, but then still there are, it's happiness is something which we cannot buy. And why we are talking about happiness? Because we are talking about emotional well-being. So we have 2 different types of emotions, negative emotion and positive emotion. So let's talk about positive emotion, which is happiness. And we, whatever do in our life, we are striving for getting that happiness, isn't it? We get married, we get good job, we want children to be done very well. Why do we do all these things in our life? Because we want to be happy. But end of the day, do you think we are happy? But anyways, we can't buy this happiness. As I said, you cannot buy in Andheri, Vileparla, Vashi, wherever you are, you cannot buy. You need to create that happiness. So there is a secret recipe for everyone for that happiness. So I'm going to, of course, in 10 minutes, I cannot reveal everything. But whenever you feel little low, upset, or you have any issues, because there is nobody in this world who's not having any kind of problems. So if you find any problems and if you don't find any solutions, or if there is something you are feeling, bad about it, you are not able to cope with your emotions, or if there is a challenge in mental health, do call us on our mental health helpline. It's absolutely free. But let's talk about, there are certain keywords. Of course, all the speakers have given, their secret recipes of taking care of your emotions. So here is a secret recipe, not secret, I mean, it's open secret for everyone. So you can take down, of course, when we are talking about happy hours. So here's my menu card of happiness. Okay. So there are different ingredients on that menu card. So you can pick and choose, you can make, you can use everything. You can add on to that and create your own recipe for happiness. So there is, first of all, can you read this? It is accept. Accepting life as it is, that gives you the real happiness, because what happens, we expect a lot in our life. And when we don't get according to our expectations, what happens? We feel unhappy. So try removing, of course, we have to be aware of our mind, aware of our emotions. And this is why, we had this particular entire conclave on that, because we have to start understanding our own emotions and others also. It should not be only selfish motive, okay, I'm only thinking about myself, but you have to keep on thinking about others' emotions and accept the situation, accept the family, accept yourself. Because most of the times, the kind of cases we get, we find that people are not ready to accept themselves, and that's where the problem happens. If you can read, Sapna, can you read this properly?
Yeah, let go.
Yeah, okay. So let go, because there are so many things in our life, we don't have any control on that. So these are my, you can say keywords in my life, because as I said, everybody has to go through ups and downs. We don't have any control on the outside environment, but we do have control on our inner environment. So let's take charge of our own emotional well-being. So let go half of the things, which doesn't matter in your life. You need to prioritize your things in life. Okay, there are certain situations which are unavoidable. There are certain times which, those are painful situations. There may be some death, there may be, you have lost your job or something, there are diseases, there are people who are not well. So these are certain times, certain situations everybody has to go through. So have patience that time. Certain things, if you don't have any control on that situation, do not think too much about that. So let go of the things. Love. So love is very, very important emotion in our life. Of course, we always, we love our children, we love our spouse, we love our job, we love our house. There are so many things we love. But what about yourself? Do you love yourself? Because this is something which we have to start doing from today, from this moment. If you start loving yourself, because when we conduct sessions, I conduct so many sessions, when I talk to the teachers, especially, so half of them, they say, no, we don't have time to love ourselves, because we are so busy taking care of, so many kids and so many people from my house. So this is somewhere, because finally it's your own journey. There is nobody, there will be people coming and going. It's your family, it's your job, it's everything, your kids. But finally, it's your journey. Till the time you're alive, they are there. The day you die, nothing matters actually. So that's where you have to start loving yourself. So please start loving yourself and start loving others also. Show that emotion more often. See, there are certain emotions which we have to work on. If you feel, I'm not so good in expressing love, please start working on that. Talk. With whom do we talk most? It's ourselves. Many times we get calls on our helpline where people want to talk to somebody. They feel there is nobody. So you need to talk. Don't keep anything in your mind. You need to vent it out. So if you find okay, there is nobody who's going to listen to you, please talk to us. There is helpline. Our numbers are there with you. And you can even share these numbers with others also, because talking is very, very important therapy. And talking to yourself, that you have to be very, very careful, because maximum time we are talking to ourselves only. And what do we talk? We talk so much negative about ourselves. So don't do that. Don't be so rude. Don't be so bad with your own self. So start whatever you are thinking in your mind. And in a day we are creating almost 70 to 80,000 thoughts, and most of the thoughts are negative thoughts. So don't do that. You have to be aware about your thoughts and start talking to yourself more politely, more lovingly. So take care. You have to, I remember that film, Jab We Met, that Kareena Kapoor, she talks about, main meri favorite hu. So you have to be your favorite, and that's what can give you the, happiness in the world. Self-talk is very important, as I told you. Live in the moment. Because we have seen half of the times, like most of our life, either we are living in past or we are living in future. We are not living in the moment. So stop worrying about tomorrow, and stop, bothering yourself with your past. So you don't have any relations. You have to think, in your mind, I do not have any kind of impact of my past on my present. You have to cut all your threads of your bad memories of past. Carry on only good memories from your past. So live in the moment. I know it's very difficult. It's very easy to talk, but let me tell you, once you start practicing, because how we tell our children, they have to practice to be perfect. So this is something what we have to start practicing to be perfect in our own emotional well-being. Be positive. This is, I think everybody talks about be positive, but hota nahi hai kisi se. We just keep on, it's very easy to give gyan to somebody else, but when it comes to us, or when the situation is bad in our environment or in my life, then it becomes so difficult. But that's where the challenge is. That's where you need to take charge of your own life. When you feel very, very bad, upset, what you have to do is you have to count on your blessings. You know what is the biggest blessing you have? If you want, you can type it in the chat box. What do you think, according to you, what is your biggest blessing? Come on, use your chat box. Absolutely, Ketki. We are breathing. Okay, many of you will have my children, my house, my spouse, my job. We have so many things to bless for. But the biggest blessing is we are still, alive. And that is the biggest blessing. And of course, there are so many blessings which we don't even realize. See, today we are all, face to face on a virtual conference. Don't you think this computer is a blessing? Our Wi-Fi is a blessing today. It's working so well. So there are so many things in our life, like small things which we don't even realize. There are so many blessings. So count on your blessings, because when we conduct this activity, people feel, no, I have more problems than my blessings, because I asked them to count. So start counting on your blessings and you will feel so happy that yes, you are so blessed. Give. So give doesn't mean that you just have to give money or you have to give clothes or you have to give any materialistic things. You can even give few words of encouragement. You can give, what the other person needs at that particular time. So start giving, and, this will also help your children to start, getting into the habit of giving, because we get cases when children become very, very selfish. They're so selfish because they have seen their parents, and parents only will tell them, don't give it to him. This, I got it for you, because we never have encouraged them. But I remember, one incident that somebody had visited Father Agnes, and they came and they told me that they tell the children to, share their tiffin. So that boy the person who had come to visit that school, that one of the students had offered that person, and he was so touched. He said, my God, this is something we have never seen. So this is something what we need to inculcate in our children, that we have to start giving, because when you give, the kind of joy, the kind of happiness, it is unmeasurable. Pray in whichever form you are praying. You have to keep praying. Hope. Never give up hope till the time you are breathing your last breath. Never give up your hope, because miracles can happen. Forgive and forget, because throughout the day we are facing so many situations. There are so many things which are not as per our wish, our will. There are people who do not, treat us well, or we don't treat them well, or anything. There are so many differences in the family itself. We are all today confined to these four walls, and in the family itself we find there is so much of disharmony. So end of the day, before you go to bed, what you have to do is you have to forget and forgive everyone. So this will really give you happiness. And let me tell you, I practice this and this really works. Celebrate. You need to start celebrating small things in your life, because we wait for the big thing to happen, and it may happen, it may not happen. But when you start, celebrating small joys in life, and also teach your children to start, enjoying these small things in life, life becomes happy, because life is all about every second. It's full of so many seconds, and we are missing out on so many seconds and minutes and hours for waiting for that big day to come when I will be happy. So you have to be happy in this present moment. So believe in miracles and miracles will happen. Attitude of gratitude. This is something which really gives you happiness, because when you start, thanking Almighty or thanking each other for whatever wonders you have got in your life, life becomes so happy. There are momentary unhappiness because of certain situations, but that's it. That should be only for that day. The next day is always a new beginning. So you need to engage yourself into meaningful activities, because they say now, when you don't have anything to do, you feel very unhappy. You are very sad. You keep on thinking all your negative, whatever is, oh, I'm the only victim, and you feel victimized. So don't let your mind to be empty, because they say it's a devil, where the devil stays. So don't be your empty mind. Continuously engage into some new activities. I don't know how many of you have learned I'm sure this, because of this pandemic, you got so much of time. I used to see on Facebook and all, people are making new dishes, or like getting engaged into different activities online. So pandemic has also really helped us to become a better person, I would say. So engage in different activities, even encourage children to get engaged, not just on screen, but physically into different activities. Meditate. I know when we tell people meditate, they say no, we just can't concentrate. So meditation doesn't mean that you just have to sit and you are completely, you find some halo coming out of your head or something like that. No, nothing happens. But you need to sit at one place and just be calm and just keep on breathing. Just concentrate on your breathing. That's it. And your thoughts will come and go. But you have to be aware of your thoughts. It should not be negative thoughts. So once you get some negative thoughts, just shoo them away. Walk. If you can't do any other exercise, or you can't go to the gym because it's COVID times, at least what you can do is walk. I know many of the teachers or many of the parents, they say we just don't have time. So post dinner, go at least half an hour, 1 hour. You need to find time for yourself. If you don't find time for yourself, who else is going to find time for yourself? So you have to take care of yourself. You have to love yourself, and you walk away from negativity. And there are certain affirmations. Of course, everybody has, see, affirmation has a lot of power. It's like mantra. Because once you keep on chanting these affirmations, what happens? You don't get the negative thoughts in your mind. And that actually attracts the positive energy and positive things in your life. And this really works. I'm not saying without, it has worked for me. It has worked for so many. So this is something which we are trying to even, give it to our children, because we teach them everything. We teach them literacy, numeracy, computers, everything. But we never teach our children how to remain happy in any situation. Because we don't know, today aaj corona hai, kal koi aur rona hoga. We don't know. We have to prepare our children for life. So that's where you need to focus on how my child, how can I create a good happy environment at home, so that my child also gets into that habit, because these are all habits. They say that we always find history repeats. Why we say history repeats? Because whatever happens in your childhood, that we keep on attracting that kind of experiences always. So there are certain affirmations. Maybe you can click the photo. So there is this: I am divinely protected and guided. And this is very important in this COVID times. I wake up filled with joy and excitement to meet my day. Because when I see people, when they get up, they don't want to get up because they don't want to face the day. So you have to fine tune your mind. You have to change the tuning, like how the FM radio, you have to fine tune so that you get the exact vibration and frequency. So I love and accept my body, and I take good care of it, because this is very important. So you have to take care of your mind, body, and soul. So there are a lot of affirmations available on Google. Google could be Google. So use Google very rightly and for your benefit. And if you find still, if you feel you need any kind of support, any kind of help, we are always there. Parisarasha is always there. You can take down our helpline numbers. You can Google for the helpline numbers. We can always flash it on the screen now. And so that's what, and be happy, and let your happy hours should not be confined to some restaurant or something. It should be happy hours not on the house, in the house. So thank you so much. Thank you.
So wonderful, wonderful, Aarti, and the recipe that you have shared with all of us. Definitely, if we are going to implement all these, what you just, the keywords that you have shared with us, if all of us are going to implement that in our everyday life, I don't think we are going to need a helpline any which ways. Isn't that so?
Absolutely. Yeah, there should not be a helpline at all, because we are looking at a happy world, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
Absolutely. But wonderfully summed up, Aarti, and we are definitely going to love ourselves. And when you want to give something to somebody, you should have it in yourself first. So if I have to give love, I should love myself.
Okay, one more minute before we close. I think all of you, whoever is joined over here, I can see some 81 people. I know many of you are not, switching on your cameras, but I think if we can switch on your mics and start laughing, because that is also good therapy. Oh, okay, I can see many of you have switched on your cameras. So if you can just unmute yourself. Do you know how to laugh? Can you laugh? I can't hear you.
Yes.
Sukada, can you unmute everyone? Let me see how they laugh. Because many times I have to tell them, please go for tuition classes for laughing.
Everyone is laughing right now, isn't
Yeah,
it?
okay. So now let's, 1, 2, 3. What you have to do is, if you have your families and friends around in your house, because all are at home, so you can have your, like spouse, daughter, kids, or whoever is there. When I say 1, you have to look at each other and smile. Okay? And when I say 2, you have to laugh loud. ओके जोर से आपको हंसना है जब भी मैं 2 बोलूंगी, एंड जब भी मैं 1 बोलूंगी, 1 बोलूंगी, तो आपको whoever is there आपके घर पे जो कोई भी आजू बाजू में, अगर वॉल्स भी है तो भी हंस लीजिए उनके साथ में. Smile, okay? Because see, this is something, if you can start practicing in real life ना, अगर आपके हस्बैंड को बहुत गुस्सा आया, so what you have to do? You have to smile. Yeah, don't laugh. He will get more angry. You have to smile. Okay, wait, I have not started. Okay, just hold on. Don't be so eager to laugh. So when I say 1, you have to smile, look at each other and smile. If nobody is there, look at camera and smile. And when I say 2, you have to laugh aloud. Okay? Okay, come on. 1, 2. 2. आवाज नहीं होता है, कैसे चिल्लाते हैं वैसा हंसना है जोर से. 2. So keep laughing, smiling, be happy. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
so much.
Thank you for the lovely session.
Here, Arti, thank you once again. And here, I was just reading the chat box, and Vijaya Vaitulingam ma'am has written, "The child in me is my biggest blessing."
Oh, wonderful.
That's so wonderful and so true, So because when we grow up, we have so many inhibitions. But if you really, if it is that, the child in me, then what Arti has just spoken about, that comes naturally to all of us. Isn't that so? So
Yes.
Let's keep the child in us alive. And with that, we are towards the end of the conclave today. And once again, over to you, Arti, for the vote of thanks.
So thank you so much for the audience, first of all, for being so patient. I think it's almost 2 hours, more than 2 hours now, that you are here with us, and you are laughing and smiling. So thank you so much. And thanks, Sapna, for the wonderful moderation. And my sincere thanks to all the panelists, Dr. Anjali Chhabria, Dr. Samir Dalwai, Dr. Yatri Thakkar, Dr. K.C. Chawda. Should I say Dr. Rupa Duvari, miss? Okay, and of course my team Parisar Asha, without whom this is never going to be possible. So I'm really blessed. I'm really grateful to Almighty that for the wonderful team what I have. So I just have to say something and everything gets, it's like miracles, so that's how I said I believe in miracles, because my team is a miracle. So, of course, Shri Datta, Sukada, and whoever is, behind the scenes, because they never show their faces, but they are there, the backbone of the entire our event. Anthony is there, Anjali, Sapna, and everyone. And of course, my counseling team. And the biggest thank I would like to give over here is Capgemini for their unconditional support. And because of them, we could, for almost 4 years, we have touched 4 lakh families. We have transformed the lives of 4 lakh families. I won't say we have transformed 4 lakh families, but we have actually gain blessings. So I said it's in the account of Parisar Asha and Capgemini. We have shared this blessings of 4 lakh families, 4 lakh people. So thank you so much, Capgemini, for your unconditional support. And with this today's digital app, what we have come up with for Android phones. I'm looking forward for having, a better version. We keep on updating that as per the needs of the hour and needs of the society. And it will reach out to masses, not just to classes, so that we can actually make a happy nation and a happy world. And I hope I have covered everyone. And of course, I would like to say big thank you to Wi-Fi also. It worked very well because everything is online. So we have to be really, grateful to Almighty and all our Wi-Fi today. So because of this, we can actually get connected in this pandemic season, also in this pandemic. It's a very difficult situation out there, and I'm hoping that it's easing out and our children are coming back to school. So let's welcome them with on a happy note, and let's be happy. And yeah, thank you so much, and good night. And stay
Aarti, can we just show a helpline number and the
please,
application once?
Yes. Yeah, so this is our
I think everyone can see the helpline number on the screen behind me. Isn't that so? And the digital application is also available for download on the Play Store.
Yeah, this is our helpline number, and our helpline is open all days, morning, night, 9 o'clock till night, 9 o'clock. And it's absolutely free service. There are no charges. If there is a need, there will be a counseling, one-to-one counseling done over the phone, and even, of course, phone though it's anyways available, but you can also come physically to Parisar Asha's office when it's required.
So I hope everyone has noted down that number. And thank you, Aarti, for the word of thanks. From my end too, I would like to thank all the panelists for the wonderful insights and doing justice to the topic that was shared with you.
One more thing, Sapna, I would also like to thank Parisar Asha trustees also for believing in me always, and giving a complete free hand. So that's how we could really touch so many lives. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so as Aarti said, see, we are counting our blessings, lots of them, and definitely wonderful viewers and audiences like you. And always, all of you, all the educators here today, because of your support, it's we who are growing, right? So a big thank you to each one of you who was part of the session today. And continued support is what we are looking from you. And let's make mental health a priority. Okay, so with that, Aarti, I should end the session for today. So goodbye and God bless. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.